What's going on, Badger fans? Welcome to a special edition of Locked On Badgers. I'm excited for this one. We got we got BA coming on the show. We're going to talk about legacy, favorite games, biggest moments, dive into his perspective on today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Badger fans? Thank you for making this one of your first listens every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And with that, we just get into it, right? Because when we got guests, we don't waste time. We got Braelon Allen joining the show. And Braelon, I want to start with this. You said you had seen the show and you still decided to come on, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I want to start with just saying thank you. So, and the reason I'm saying thank you is a while ago I bought this, and for 3 years I couldn't display it because we had not beaten that friggin' team, and you laid it all in the end. I was able to display this now, so thank you for that effort against Minnesota. I want to start here, man. We're going to get a lot of comments, questions. Just big picture, you finished with 34, almost 3,500 career rushing yards. That's 9th in program history. You're ahead of some big-time talents. What is your legacy at Wisconsin? Like, what do you think it is?
We're not starting out slow here.
No, we jumped right in, man.
Yeah, we're jumping right in. I think those numbers are great. They're awesome to see, awesome to look at. I mean, I think, like you said, 9th all time. Just to be mentioned among that group, top 10 running backs in Badger football history. Stats wise, I mean, that's a pretty elite group to be a part of. So I'm just thankful that, I was able to have that opportunity. But, I don't think the numbers really tell the whole story. I think, I missed some games. So obviously, these numbers could be more. I'm not playing the bowl game. I could have got to the 3,500, whatever. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me. When I think back on it, my time at Wisconsin was not really what I envisioned when I first got there. Before I got there, we didn't really obviously I grew up watching Wisconsin playing Big Ten championships and, in the Rose Bowls and things, and never got that opportunity. So that's the thing that probably hurts the most. And, the one thing that, I wish would have went a little bit differently. But on the individual side of it, I mean, it was way more than I could have ever imagined. Like, way more. I mean, 2021, my freshman year, had, Chez been healthy the whole year, had Isaac been healthy the whole year, had Berger stayed around a little longer. I mean, you'd probably be talking to redshirt junior inside linebacker Braelon Allen right now, which is crazy to think about. Things just kind of fell into places that allow me to step up into a role that was the best thing that could have happened for me. And so it's just crazy to think about. Like I said, the individual side of it was so much more than I ever pictured. So just definitely thankful for everybody, that was able to lay hands on me, everybody who's, dropped some advice and has helped me along the way. Definitely is everybody at that university is definitely a huge part, has a huge part in where I am today. So, yeah, that's pretty much the big picture. I think my legacy is a little bit I think there's different outlooks on it. I think a lot of people have a lot of different opinions, but for myself, I just think, I wasn't supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be where I am right now, just based off of my path leading up to it. But here I am. So I think, I made the most of my opportunities and did what I could really, and try to be the best teammate possible.
Man, I think you made more than the most of your opportunities. You're 9th all time at Wisconsin at RBU. Like, you're ahead of some dudes like, I don't know, Brett Moss, Terrell Fletcher, Corey Clement. Like, it's incredible. I do want to ask you about, and I was going to ask you about this later because I want to dive into your year this year a little bit more. But you mentioned playing linebacker. Do you ever just let that thought play on your head? What would you have been like after 3 years at linebacker?
Yeah, I do think about that a lot. I was actually just talking to my agent about that. But I don't know. I mean, freshman year, I definitely wasn't playing. I mean, look who we had. They're both starters in the NFL right now. So I definitely wasn't going to be playing my freshman year at linebacker. So who knows? I mean, maybe last year, maybe I get on the field somewhere. And this year, a whole new defense. I'm probably playing, that kind of dollar hybrid position, that they have. Maybe I'm there. I don't know. But it's crazy to think about. It is. I joked with my agent. I was like, instead of if I was a linebacker right now, maybe we're looking at, first round rather than, third or fourth. But who knows?
12 sacks last year, be that first round edge rush or whatever. Yeah. Let me talk to you more about this year. Like, you finish off with Minnesota, one of your better games, a great game. You get the axe back. At what point does it hit you? This is the last time I'm putting on that motion W, and what is that feeling like?
It was a strange, super strange feeling. I mean, I knew it was my last game. Coach Spalding knew it was my last game. Everyone that was close to me knew it was my last game. So I think it was just like a effort, like I've been hurt for I don't even know how many weeks at that point. And it was just like whatever pain I'm feeling is just got to go to the side. Like, this is the last one. Whatever I can do, like, I got to do it like right now to the best of my ability, and get this axe. And that's all it was, it was just like a effort and go. And it ended up being a pretty fun game.
What's it like chopping on the Go Poost? What's that feeling like?
It was it was really enjoyable. I mean, watching all week, all week throughout my whole career there, they've always played, the highlights around the facility of, them jumping around after they won and chopping it down, parading it around the city, doing things like that. And it just fuels that fire in you so much. Like, you just want to get it back so bad. So finally having it in my hands, I had no idea. I didn't even hear anything about, how much it weighed, what it was like to swing it. I was just waiting for the moment where I actually had it in my own hands. And it was an amazing feeling.
And, obviously you're a Wisconsin guy, right? Just, it means so much more for you if you grow up in the state, you grow up around that, you understand the rivalry. And to end your Wisconsin career on that note, outside of going to like a Big Ten championship game, like you mentioned, that's got to be about as good as it gets. Yeah,
it is. I mean, given the circumstances that we had, not being able to make a push for the championship game, in those last few weeks, that was the end goal. I mean, once we were kind of out of contention for that was the end goal. And I mean, we talked about it. This was right after Northwestern. We played Indiana right before North. So this is right after the Indiana game. And we were all kind of at dinner. It was a group of us. It was like me, Marty, Muma. I don't even remember who was all there. Just like a group of 6 or 7 of us. And, I'm not sure if I'm playing that week. And so we're kind of having a conversation. We're like, we kind of all agreed that no matter what, we could lose to Northwestern, we could lose to Nebraska, but getting the axe was a non-negotiable. Like, it had to happen. No questions asked. That's what it had to be. And we were all kind of on the same page about that. So luckily we did end up beating Nebraska. That was another thing. We're like, Nebraska's we got to win that one too for sure. Just know since we had never lost the trophy, and it's not a protected rivalry, I don't think, to where with the realignment and stuff, we might not. Who knows the next time we have that trophy game. So we had to keep that too. But if we did lose that, we had to win the axe, no questions asked. So that was the best feeling ever.
This is awesome. I got to take a quick break for our friends of the show and come back. We're going to ask Braelon Allen about this coaching staff, Coach Spalding. Definitely want to talk to you about Chez Mellusi too, coming back and what he means to the locker room and the team. Coming up next on Locked On Badgers, we're going to get into all of that plus more with Braelon Allen. But first, a quick break for friends of the show and our good friends of the show over at eBay Motors. If you know me, if you listen to this show, you know I often have car trouble. eBay Motors is my number one go-to spot to fix all of that, get every single part I need. Over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions to apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. It is the number one place for all your car parts, all your car needs, everything you need. ebaymotors.com. Keep your ride or die alive. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's get BA back on here. Keep talking about this. I do want to take a quick second, man, and get some comments in here from the people who are tuning in. A lot of people tuning in to say hi, to say thanks. Let's see. This is from Derek. In today's transfer portal, BA is a legend for sticking it out, high character. Caleb, your character is something to be proud of, man. I hope future athletes see what it means to give it all for your team, a concept that seems to be fading. This is from Robert Swordson. Good luck, Braelon. Danimal, thanks for the memories. He has a question, dude. Would you rather run power or stretch outside zone?
I think in the first offense that I played in under Joe Rudolph, his outside zone scheme was second to none. Like, that was my favorite play by far. And I mean, a lot of people in that system had a lot of success running that play. And that was definitely my favorite. I mean, it was outside zone. My freshman year was my favorite play. This past year in this air raid, I was definitely a fan of power and counter. Out of the gun, it's just a different feel. Outside zone, under center, is a lot more. You have a lot more time to see your read key, I think, and that's what kind of helped me be successful was being able to be patient. He's always gonna lead you in the right direction. So as soon as he kind of declares what he's doing, you just put your foot in the ground and get vertical. And I think that suited me very well in that offense. And this past one, in the air raid, having those pullers allowed me to be super patient too. So it kind of depended, whether it was in the eye or from the gun. So
let me ask you this. And Jet in the comments says future New York Giant. I don't know. I want to ask you this. The bowl game this year, you did decide to opt out. You're training. You're in California right now, correct? You had said?
Yep.
You're ready for the draft. What is that decision like as an athlete? Take us inside that perspective, how hard it is, how difficult it is, and kind of what led you to this spot.
Yeah. For me, it was I had felt like I did everything that I needed to do on the field. And, I'd made this decision way before we found out who we were playing and where we were playing and stuff. So I was already in Cali when, when it got announced. So for me, it was just everything that I felt I needed to do this year on the field. I did. I put good things on tape. And I think the biggest thing that would help my stock is going to be running a great 40 and looking very smooth in the drills and just looking smooth in everything that I do. That's going to be, what helps boost my stock the most. So, and I mean, I'm still rehabbing my ankle, so I might have not even been able to really play in this game at full health. So it was kind of just the idea of getting here as early as possible. I mean, I got here November 29th, so I left like 2 days after Minnesota. I was out here right away, so I was just trying to get that extra treatment in and kind of get a head start. I was the first guy out here, so I was kind of ahead of the curve, getting treatment and already starting workouts and stuff. So, like I said, everything that I felt I needed to do, I did this year. And Coach Spalding said he wouldn't even let me play, so it was kind of a decision made for me.
Let me ask you this, because I think fans look at it a certain way where everyone has different perspectives, right? We kind of talked about this before the show. People look at things through different lenses. Fans kind of say, well, don't you want to be there with your teammates one more time? Of course you do. But I feel like the guys in the locker room and the coaches understand where you're at.
Right. Yeah. It was, when I had told Coach Fick that I was declaring, no conversation about the bowl game even came up. It was just like, I agree. Good luck, basically. So pretty quick conversation. There wasn't really anything coming up about the bowl game. So, I just, like I said, my combine is going to be a lot more, I think, beneficial to me than playing one more game.
Let me ask you this. This came from a couple different people. Ryan Eilers had a question about this, and this is another one from Rob S. from our Discord, our subtext. He just wanted to ask, do you ever regret playing hurt? He said, I think back to your freshman year, there were a couple times you looked like you were in pain. Maybe you shouldn't be playing. He also said, tell him thank you for sinking that friggin' boat. But yeah, talk about playing hurt. It almost feels like a no-win, right? Either you play hurt and you don't look quite as good because you're dinged up. You mentioned a sophomore injury. I'd love to get into that a little bit more. Or you don't play hurt and people say, why is he not out there?
Yeah. So I think freshman year, for the most part, I was pretty healthy. I mean, I had some ankle issues that kind of lingered, but it wasn't anything really serious. So freshman year, I was pretty much healthy the whole year. I missed Notre Dame with a concussion that I got at practice. So that was the one game I missed. I wasn't really playing at that point anyways, but so freshman year overall pretty healthy. Sophomore year, I had a shoulder that, people didn't really understand the severity of what I was playing through. It was the most annoying, even more than my ankle, the most annoying, the most painful, the most uncomfortable injury that I've had. This is the same injury that I was seeing a lot this year. Guys were getting, season-ending surgeries on it. And this is, I was playing through this, the whole back half of the season. So I had suffered the injury against Purdue. And that was right before our bye week. So it was pretty much like mid-season. And I was playing through this and, I couldn't do it. I really couldn't be myself. I can remember people, making comments about, I'm not running hard, I'm not playing, like I should be, for my frame and my size. But I mean, every time I touched the ball, like it was just so uncomfortable and so painful that it was always in the back of my mind, like if I land on this thing or it gets hit, I'm not even going to be able to be out here right now. So trying to avoid that as much as possible while still, trying to obviously play to the best of my abilities. It was tough. It was very difficult. But, I tried to make do with it. And then Nebraska, I ended up suffering a high ankle sprain. And that was kind of the cherry on the top. I couldn't play against Minnesota. So that was it. That was the game I missed my sophomore year. And then this year, obviously the ankle again, which really sucked. I mean, it hurts me to think about that Ohio State game, on the one, punch it in, and just got rolled up on, by a big old D lineman. So, man, it hurts my heart, but it is what it is. And it could have been a lot. The silver lining is it could have been a lot worse. I mean, the position that I was in was I was very vulnerable. And when somebody rolls up on your leg like that, it could be a lot worse than a high ankle sprain. So that sucked. And I don't think anybody will ever be able to convince me that had we had a healthy team that game, we weren't walking out of there with the W. But yeah, it sucks. I think, I tried to, after that, I was in a boot for a week and a half or so. I mean, there was no question I wasn't going to be able to play against Indiana. And then the next week we were kind of on the fence. I mean, I was like, in my mind, not ruling it out, but I knew there was a good chance probably wasn't going to be able to play against Northwestern either. And, I was kind of just, at this point, I'm just now starting to walk, even somewhat normal. This is like Wednesday, Thursday going into Northwestern. I'm just now really starting to walk without a boot. And I strapped it up and tried to go out there against Northwestern, played, 5 or 6 plays or whatever. And, Coach Spalding kind of cut me off. And then the next week was really the same thing. Didn't practice, nothing, just wasn't even really supposed to play the way that I was looking throughout the week. Coach Spalding on Thursday was like, we're probably not going to play you. But, we'd like to have you suited up on the sideline and stuff and whatever. So, like I said, I wasn't practicing, didn't even do the walkthroughs or anything. Really just trying to keep it as fresh as possible, keep the load off it a little bit. That way Saturday, if it were to go right, there wasn't any fatigue or any soreness. And then went out for warmups against Nebraska and was running around pretty fine. Went back in and did what I had to do, to try to numb it as much as possible. And then went out there and tried to ball out. And that was kind of the story that whole back part of the season. Minnesota was basically the same thing again, not practicing. I knew there was no doubt in my mind I was playing, regardless of how it felt, but, didn't really practice. Was kind of just, being easy on it. And then Saturday came around, taped it up and went to work.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned Spalding, Coach Spalding a couple of times. What's he like?
Man, Coach Spalding, I mean, I got to say, besides, the actual football aspect of it, I got to say that Coach Spalding is probably the highlight of my career there. That hire, him coming in and taking over the room. He's an amazing coach, absolutely the best. And, he's a little younger too, so it's very easy to, kind of relate to him. I wouldn't even say that he was he's not old enough to be like a father figure, but I think we're a little tighter than, a coach and player. And I think everybody in the whole room feels that same way about him. So he was amazing. I mean, he helped me grow in so many different areas. And, was just the most supportive through everything. Even, through those injuries, he tried to take care of me as best as he possibly could, with the very limited depth that we had. He still tried to find a way to make it work. So very thankful for Coach Spalding.
Let me ask you this, and this is no knock to any coaches you've ever had, but how did having 3 different coaches in 3 years maybe impact you? Do you ever think if you just had one, did that impact you or did that help you?
Well, I think having one is ideal, but I think I was able to grab a lot of things from all 3. And GB was, obviously my first coach, and he we had a great relationship, especially towards the end, when I was really playing and stuff. But at first I don't think he necessarily saw, the impact that I could have. So it was a little bit kind of a, it wasn't anything, bad, but I think, he just kind of saw me as like a freshman, but at the end, we had a really good relationship. It was a good relationship throughout the whole year, but, towards the end was when we really, really got close, and, he really started to, kind of mold me into the player that he saw that I could be. And Coach Johnson was just a great dude, another guy that I was very close with, have a great relationship with. And, the only thing about him was that he didn't play running back. So it was a little harder for him to obviously coach that position and kind of see things through our lens. But just a great overall guy, great overall coach. And, I think he had a really good, I think his O-line that he's coaching at Montana State had a really good year this year. So I'm happy for him. And then, Coach Spalding kind of already hit on him, just one of the best coaches in the nation.
I want to bang on some of these questions we got because, again, I can't keep you forever, man, but I'm going to run out of time before questions. I definitely want to get these playmaker-asked thoughts about the current staff and also just the direction of the program. Where do you feel like this thing is headed under Fickell? You've already talked about Coach Spalding, but what about the rest of the guys?
So I think overall, it's a very elite coaching staff. I mean, every position is pretty much has, one of the best coaches, around. So I don't know the new receivers coach, but Coach Brown was awesome from what, I had heard and I had seen. And, he was a guy that I had a really good relationship with. Coach Letton with the tight ends, same thing. I know that all the tight ends love him. Coach Bick, I thought he did a pretty good job, getting our line right. And defensively, I didn't really have, a super deep relationship with anybody, but, every time, the interactions that I had with them, they were always good. And I think the guys, respect them and enjoy having them as their coach. So I think the program's headed in a good direction. And, I see, the transfers, news about new transfers, new commits and things every day. And we got a bunch of ballers coming in. So Sebastian Cheeks, we just got today. He's a guy that I was with on his visit. So we've had a good relationship for a pretty long time. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to watch these guys over the next few years. And I'll be interested to see, what it's like, from the outside looking in, now being a part of it all, and seeing how things go.
Let me ask you about, and then there's a couple more questions. Your playmaker is the second part of this too, but I want to veer off really quickly. You mentioned transfers. Again, this is an area where athletes and fans have very different perspectives on things, NIL transfers. And how does the locker room, how is that impacted, if at all? You get a guy coming in, transfers in. How is the locker room with that?
I don't think there's really ever any problems. I think everybody sees that and they embrace it. They know that, these coaches brought those guys in here for a reason. So you just try to make it as, easy as a transition for them as you can, kind of create that bond as quickly as possible, and get them comfortable. And I think all the transfers that we had come in this past year made a huge impact for us. And, they were a lot of guys that made a lot of plays, and they were all extremely hard workers, extremely humble. And all of them were really a huge pickup for us, like I said, made a huge impact. So I think the dynamic is always good from what I've seen. I don't think there's been anything, besides the Marcus situation. That was probably the only time where, there was maybe a group of guys that weren't on as board with it. But at the end of the day, he was our brother. And, he did what he had to do. He entered the portal and decided that, it was going to be best for him to come back. And I supported him 100% wholeheartedly. Obviously seeing the commitment post to Minnesota wasn't my favorite thing ever. But, I talked with him throughout that whole process and still today talk to him pretty much every day. He's one of my best friends. So that was the only situation, that was probably a little bit uneasy in the locker room. But, once he got there, it was all good.
Second part of this question here. Are you working or even just talking to any former Badger running backs, getting ready for the draft? Any tips or guidance you're pulling from those guys?
Not yet. I'm kind of just waiting until their season dies down a little bit. Obviously, they're all, in the midst of their season and super busy. So I haven't really reached out to anybody yet.
A couple more comments here. This is from Mike. He said, honestly, just make sure you can feel the gratitude from the fan base. He dealt with a lot of things some of the greats never did at Wisconsin. Could have left last year, chose to kind of put it all out there through this year. So a lot of people with that sentiment in the chat, Braelon, people just saying thank you. I can't even get to them all, but a lot of appreciation shown for what you did in Madison. This is from Paul. Favorite moment as a Badger?
It's got to be the Axe. I mean,
Yes.
it has to be. That was, my last game, one of my better games, and, just that feeling of finally getting it, after going 0 for 2. That's got to be it for sure.
Is there any game you look back, maybe it is the Ohio State game this year, where it just is never going to really sit well with you?
Yeah, it's definitely that one. And then freshman year, 2021 Minnesota. Those are probably the two.
This one's from Justin. Anything in specifically, obviously you mentioned the 40 time, and in terms of training for the draft?
Yeah, I mean, my trainer kind of has it all mapped out for me. And like I said, I'm still rehabbing my ankle, so I haven't even really ran yet. But just kind of we did some up tempo jogs and stuff yesterday, so we're slowly getting back into it. But in terms of, I want to put up a really good bench. So that training has been different for me. That just kind of pure endurance on the bench. It's it's tough. Those workouts are definitely some of the harder ones that I've ever done, but it's all been good. I mean, like I said, my trainer kind of has it all mapped out for me, so I just follow his lead.
What do you think you grew the most as a running back from freshman year to this year? Like, where did you make the biggest stride?
Ooh, I think I think a lot of people will look at my freshman year, and I think a lot of people have the idea that I kind of had a drop off, and I mean the numbers say that, but when you look at this past year, this this past season was definitely the best version of myself by far. I think when it came to catching the ball, when it came to pass protection, when it came to my confidence, this was by far. I mean, when I look back at that stretch of like Illinois, Iowa, even Rutgers, kind of that Ohio State, that middle of the season kind of time for me, that was like my best football, in my opinion. I think that's where I felt the most confident. And, when I saw that I was one-on-one with somebody, whether it was on the edge, whether it was in the hole, whether it was down the field, like I knew they were not going to tackle me. And that was something that I think I lacked my freshman and my sophomore year. And this year, I just made people pay really every time that I had the opportunity. So I think this past year was just the best version of myself. I was the most confident, and I think that had a lot to do with Coach Spalding. But I'd say that's probably, I've grew in every single area, honestly, every single one. But yeah, I think this past year was the best version of me.
All right, a couple more quick questions here, because again, I don't want to keep you forever, but I probably could. Going into next year, going into the draft, man, is there, I don't want to say is there any place you're looking at, but what is your goal for the draft? Like, what's the next step for Braelon Allen? Obviously get to the league, and then what?
Yeah, I think, and it's tough to say because it's, so far out of my control, in terms of where I go. But, I'm definitely, the goal is to go day 2 in the draft. So, second or third round, and, just try to put myself in a position where, I want to be the first back off the board. So put myself in a position to do that. And, I think whoever is going to take the first running back is going to be a team that needs a running back. And I think that's going to be every team that I can think of, that probably is looking to take a running back would be a good position for me to be in a good situation. So I just trying to put myself in the best situation as possible. So like I said, it's out of my control, what city I go to, what team I go to, but whoever takes the first running back, and hopefully it's me. Hopefully it's a great situation.
You mentioned watching this team from afar. Obviously, you're not going to be part of it. Talk to me about the running back group coming back, specifically Chez. I know after he got hurt, we saw the reaction not just from you, but from everybody on the team. What does he mean to this program?
He means so much. And Chez is another guy who's one of my best friends, and a brother for life for sure. And just to see him, have a great year in 21, get hurt, fight his way back, have a great year in 22, get hurt, miss 6 games or whatever it was, 5, come back, and we were definitely, my humble opinion, we were definitely the best duo in the country, no matter what anybody said. Like, I mean, when you saw us, fresh, healthy, there was nobody better. And I think Chez is a top tier back. He hasn't been able to show it, consistently throughout a whole year. So, that was like the tweet that I put out. I said, can't wait till the world sees how special you are. A lot of people, commented like, oh, we already know, but these were all Badger fans. People that paid attention knows how special he is, but he hasn't had opportunity to, put the entire country and the entire world on notice. So I think, when he gets that full season healthy, he's gonna, be regarded as one of the best backs in the nation for sure.
All right, a couple of lightning questions here. We'll wrap it up. Give me a player on offense, young player that hasn't seen a bunch of playing time, but that fans should be looking out for the next couple of years.
Benny Anthony.
Player that hits you the hardest in practice.
Kamoy. Kamoy, no doubt.
Is there anybody close?
No.
That's amazing. You put all the running backs on one side of the field. You put $1 million on the other side. No holds barred. No rules. Who gets there first?
Me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm all about the money, so nobody's beating me over there.
If you weren't playing football, what would you be doing?
I have no idea. Zero.
That means dedicated, man. I like it.
Yeah.
You said I'm gonna put up. I need to put up a good bench number. What is that number for you?
You saying like combine, like reps?
Yeah. Yep. What are you trying to hit?
The goal is 30. Yeah.
It's awesome. And any last words? Any last message for Badger fans as you kind of wrap up your career and everything you've done in Madison?
Not really. I mean, I just, I want to say thank you to everybody, in the comments. Thank you all for the support over the last 3 years. It was the best time of my life, something I'll never forget, something I'll forever be grateful for. I wish we could have done more. I wish I could have done more, but, it was a great experience. I think, I left, the program in the best spot possible that I could. And it's all gonna get better from here. And I'm excited to see the future of this program. That's pretty much it. Thank you all.
A lot of people saying thank you in the chats, comments. There'll be a bunch more of that as the show gets released. But Braelon, thank you so much for the time, man. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. He is Braelon Allen. Good luck in the next journey, and we'll all be rooting along for sure.
Thank you very much.